One of the powerful features of the Enterprise File Fabric is its sharing and collaboration abilities. This allows you to be able to take your internal pools of storage and be able to share and collaborate that with that data on those storage, not just with your internal users on the system, but potentially out with your customers and your vendors, both from a logged in named user perspective, as well as creating shared URLs that are able to be used to download and access those files. So we showed already how we can create these share team folders and have internal accounts in the system be able to access that data. But in addition to internal users, you're able to go and create external accounts within the File Fabric appliance. So in addition to things like the Active Directory and LDAP or SAML logins, you can use the internal authentication system to create accounts for your external users. Right, so you can create a external vendor. Right, so very simply, we'd be able to go and create that account, which is now a named account for an external vendor to go and log into the system. Once that's in place, we can go back to our file manager, and just like we applied permissions to share team folders, such that the internal users could access the data, we can also go back to that share. If I go to permissions, now I'm able to go and apply explicit permissions for that external vendor account that we just created. Potentially give them things like read-only access. So now what that allows you to do is share your Enterprise File Fabric URL with people outside your organization. They have a named account that they log in with. They'll be able to see the folders that they have access to. So that's the option number one for sharing and collaboration. The second option is to actually create shared URLs of the data that can then be passed. So not a named account, but rather people with a URL and a passcode. So here, if I just select the File Fabric Sizing Guide, and I click this button for share, I can say share via URL or email. And now it allows me to come in and define the properties of the shared URL. So for example, we can set things like set this link to expire after 14 days. We can limit the number of downloads. So let's say just 3 downloads. We can require a passcode to be set. And then based on the policies that you set as a organization admin, you'd be able to require them to put additional details, like why this link is being shared out. We click Generate Link, and now we've got a URL that we can then copy and send this data off to another external account where they would then be able to click this link, obviously as long as it hasn't expired, and they have the password, and it would allow them to download that file. But we can do more than just sharing files. We can also share folders as well. So here, if I click this test A folder, I again click share via URL or email, I now am able to generate a URL for this folder itself. Again, as we saw before, I can do things like set an expiration date. In this case, we have passwords required for all shared folders, so I can go and set that here. Again, just like before, we have a sharing purpose. And you'll notice there are 2 additional options that we can set here within the shared folder perspective. So the first is, if none of these are checked, this link is a read-only copy of that data. So that allows me, anybody with this link, to go and download this data and see the files in here, but I can't interact, like upload any of the data. If I set as a drop folder, now this link would be read-write. So in addition to being able to download files, I can also upload files back in there. And then finally, I can also say hide files, which then allows me to share out this link and have it be sort of a silent drop folder that allows you to have your outside vendors or customers be able to upload files, but not see the files of others that have uploaded or any of the files that exist out there currently. So just like before, we generate that link. As we see here, the password has to match. Let me just make sure I type the correct password again. And now we have that link that, again, we can share off with anybody outside the organization. The last thing that we have for collaboration, and again, this would potentially mostly be for your logged in accounts, is the ability to do commenting on files. So within the environment, we have a built-in comment system. As you can see here, each time a file has been uploaded, we add a comment that says that there's a new version out there. But we can also collaborate back and forth. So I can come in here as a user and say, hello, which then allows me to add that comment into the metadata associated with this file. So now anybody that has access to it would be able to go and see this comment, be able to comment back. As we can see, we also tagged a user here, so that user can see that they were tagged, and that will alert within their interface. So that allows you now to easily share, communicate, and collaborate with the data that's stored on your different pools of storage with both your internal users, so the people within your organization, external named accounts, as well as anybody outside the organization via their shared links and URLs.